The massive chamber fell silent as Ambassador Elena Vasquez stepped forward, her boots echoing against the crystalline floor of the Galactic Council's Judgment Hall. Around her, thousands of representatives from across known space watched with expressions ranging from disgust to pity. The air itself seemed to shimmer with the weight of decision. "The verdict has been reached," announced High Counselor Zeftai, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of finality. His blue-scaled face showed no emotion as he continued. "The human species, designation Terrasol 3, has been found guilty of excessive aggression, territorial expansion without proper authorization, and violation of the peaceful coexistence protocols." Elena's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. She had expected this outcome from the moment Earth's colonies started thriving, beyond the Council's carefully controlled expansion limits. Humanity's crime wasn't violence, it was success. Furthermore, Zeftai's voice boomed across the chamber. Humans have demonstrated an alarming tendency toward independent thought and refusal to submit to proper galactic authority. Your species has repeatedly ignored Council directives regarding population control, resource allocation, and technological development. The Altarian delegate, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed with bioluminescent agreement. They breed like a plague and spread across systems without regard for established territorial boundaries. Their very existence threatens the stability we have maintained for millennia. Elena finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "What stability? You mean the stagnation where species are kept in carefully controlled boxes, never allowed to grow beyond what you deem acceptable?" Gasps rippled through the assembly. No one spoke to the Council with such directness. "You call our expansion aggressive," she continued, "but we've never attacked another species unprovoked. We've defended ourselves when threatened, yes. We've claimed uninhabited worlds, absolutely. But we've also shared our technology, our medical advances, our agricultural innovations with anyone willing to trade fairly." High Counselor Zeftai's eyes narrowed. "Your species' definition of fair trade involves demanding equal representation despite being newcomers to galactic civilization. You refuse to accept your proper place in the established hierarchy." "Our proper place?" Elena's laugh was bitter. "You mean as servants to species that have grown fat and lazy on millions of years of unopposed rule?" The Vegan representative, a tall gray being with oversized black eyes, stood slowly. "The humans demonstrate exactly why they cannot be trusted. Arrogance, defiance, and a dangerous belief in their own superiority. We believe in our right to exist and thrive," Elena shot back. "Something you seem determined to deny us." Zeftai raised his primary arms for silence. "The Council has spoken. Humanity is hereby banished from all Council-controlled space. You have one standard galactic year to remove all human presence from the inner rim, mid-rim, and outer territories. Your species is restricted to your home system and any worlds beyond the frontier boundary." The frontier boundary. Elena almost smiled despite the circumstances. The Council thought they were exiling humanity to the galactic equivalent of Siberia, the wild, dangerous, and allegedly worthless regions beyond their controlled space. "Your fleets will be monitored," continued the High Counselor. "Any attempt to construct warships or military installations will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council. You are forbidden from forming alliances with any Council member species." "And if we refuse?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then humanity will be designated a hostile species, and appropriate measures will be taken." The threat hung in the air like poison. Elena looked around the chamber one last time, memorizing the faces of those who had condemned her species. "Very well, High Counselor. We accept your terms." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the assembly. They had expected threats, pleading, or desperate negotiations. "We will withdraw from Council space within the specified time frame," she continued. "We will not build warships or military installations as you define them. We accept banishment to the regions beyond the frontier boundary." Zeftai seemed almost disappointed by the easy victory. "Then this Council session is concluded. The human delegation will depart immediately." As Elena turned to leave, she paused and looked back. "High Counselor, I have one question. In your long experience, what typically happens to species that are exiled beyond the frontier? They adapt, submit to their circumstances, and eventually request readmission under proper terms." Zeftai replied smugly. "Or they fade into obscurity and eventual extinction." Elena nodded slowly. "I see. Thank you for the clarification. She walked toward the exit, her small human delegation falling into step behind her. The alien observers watched them go with a mixture of satisfaction and contempt. To them, humanity had been properly put in its place. But Elena Vasquez had spent 30 years in diplomatic service, and she had learned to listen very carefully to exact wording. The Council had forbidden them from building warships and military installations. They had not forbidden them from building mining platforms, research stations, manufacturing facilities, or civilian vessels with robust defensive capabilities. More importantly, they had banished humanity to regions the Council considered worthless and dangerous. What the Council didn't understand was that humans had evolved on a dangerous world, had thrived in hostile environments, and had always been at their best when everyone counted them out. As their shuttle departed the Council station, Elena's aide, Captain Marcus Webb, finally spoke. "Ma'am, what exactly are we going to tell the President and the Colonial Assembly?" Elena watched the stars wheel past the viewport and smiled. "We're going to tell them that the Galactic Council just gave us everything we ever wanted. Ma'am, they've freed us from their bureaucracy, their restrictions, and their oversight. They've given us exclusive access to unexplored territory that might contain resources beyond imagination, and they've guaranteed we won't have to deal with their interference while we figure out what to do with it all." Webb frowned. "But they've also cut us off from galactic trade, technology exchange, and—" "Marcus," Elena interrupted, "what's the most dangerous thing in the galaxy?" "According to the Council briefings, the unknown regions beyond the frontier boundary." "Exactly. And where did they just send us?" Understanding dawned on Webb's face. "Into the unknown regions. The Council thinks they've exiled us to die slowly beyond their borders," Elena said softly. "What they've actually done is remove all the safety barriers between humanity and whatever secrets the galaxy has been hiding in the dark." President Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the steady stream of ships departing Earth's solar system. The evacuation was proceeding ahead of schedule, much to the surprise of the Galactic Council's monitoring stations scattered throughout human space. "Status report," she said to Admiral Harrison, who had been coordinating the withdrawal. "All civilian populations have been relocated from Council territory. The last of our research stations and mining operations are being packed up now. We'll be completely clear of the frontier boundary within 8 months, 4 months ahead of their deadline." Chen nodded, still watching the ships. Each vessel was loaded not just with people and personal belongings, but with every piece of technology, every scientific discovery, and every resource humanity could carry. The Council had demanded they leave. They hadn't specified they had to leave empty-handed. "What about the hidden assets?" Admiral Harrison's expression grew grim. "That's the interesting part, ma'am. Remember the archaeological sites we discovered but never reported to the Council? The ones in the Vale Nebula region? The ruins that predated any known galactic civilization by millions of years? Those are just the beginning. Our deep space reconnaissance teams have been mapping everything beyond the frontier for the past decade. The Council thinks they're sending us into empty wasteland, but the preliminary surveys suggest otherwise." Chen turned from the viewport. "Show me." They moved to the station's secure briefing room, where a massive holographic display materialized above the central table. The familiar spiral of the galaxy appeared, with Council territory highlighted in blue and the forbidden zones beyond the frontier marked in red. "This is what the Council sees," Harrison explained. "Dangerous, worthless space filled with stellar hazards, rogue planets, and unstable systems. But our long-range probes have been collecting data for years." The display shifted, and suddenly the red zones were alive with points of light, hundreds of them. These are habitable worlds the Council either doesn't know about or has deliberately ignored. Many of them are resource-rich beyond anything we've seen in Council space. And this, he pointed to a cluster of signals in the far rim, this appears to be a network of ancient installations that are still active. Chen leaned forward. "Active how?" "Energy signatures, ma'am. Massive ones. Whatever the previous inhabitants built, it's still running. Our xenoarchaeology team thinks these installations might predate the current galactic civilizations by tens of millions of years. The Council must know about this. We don't think they do. Their exploration doctrine has been cautious and conservative for millennia. They map safe trade routes between known systems and avoid anything that looks remotely dangerous. They've been missing entire regions of space because they're too scared to explore them properly." Chen studied the display, her mind racing. What about the other species? The ones they've banished over the centuries? Harrison smiled grimly. Now that's where it gets really interesting. We've been receiving signals, coded transmissions from beyond the frontier. It turns out we're not the first species to be exiled. There are at least 17 other civilizations out there. All of them banished for the same reasons we were. Too independent, too aggressive, too unwilling to accept their assigned place in the Council's hierarchy. And they're still alive. More than alive, ma'am. They're thriving. The Kasari were banished 300 years ago for developing faster-than-light communication that bypassed Council monitoring networks. The Zephyrians were exiled for refusing to limit their population growth. The Makari were kicked out for developing nanotechnology without Council approval. Chen felt a chill of excitement. They're all still out there? According to our intercepts, yes. And they've been waiting for someone with the industrial capacity and technological base to help them coordinate their efforts. Someone like humanity. Exactly. Ma'am, I think the Council has inadvertently created exactly what they were trying to prevent. A coalition of advanced, independent species with every reason to despise the current galactic order. Chen walked to the viewport again, looking out at the ships carrying humanity into exile. But now she saw them differently. They weren't refugees fleeing in defeat. They were the vanguard of something unprecedented in galactic history. Admiral, I want you to accelerate the withdrawal, but change our destination. Instead of the random systems the Council suggested, I want our colonies established in these regions. She pointed to the areas with the ancient installations, and send a message to these other exiled species. Tell them Earth is interested in discussing mutual cooperation. Yes, ma'am. What should we tell them about our intentions? Chen thought for a moment. Tell them that the Galactic Council wanted to banish humanity to die in the darkness beyond civilization. What they've actually done is give us exclusive access to the galaxy's greatest secrets, surrounded us with natural allies, and removed all the legal restrictions that were preventing us from realizing our full potential. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Ma'am, are we talking about building an empire? No, Admiral. We're talking about inheriting one. The Council has been sitting on top of galactic civilization for so long, they've forgotten that civilizations rise and fall. They think their position is permanent, that their control is unshakable. They've grown complacent. She gestured toward the holographic display. But out there, beyond their carefully controlled borders, there's an entire galaxy they've been ignoring. Ancient technology they've been too cautious to investigate. Resources they've been too afraid to claim. And now they've filled that region with every species they considered too dangerous to control. They've essentially created their own replacement, Harrison realized. Exactly. And the beautiful thing is, they did it to themselves. Every arbitrary rule, every species they exiled for being too independent, every resource they ignored because it was too risky to exploit. All of it has been gathering beyond their borders, waiting for the right catalyst. Chen pulled up the communication logs from their deep space monitors. Look at this. In the 6 months since our banishment was announced, we've received over 200 inquiries from non-Council species. Trade proposals, technology exchanges, defense pacts. Civilizations we didn't even know existed are reaching out to us. Because they see opportunity where the Council sees threat. Precisely. The Council operates on fear. Fear of change, fear of competition, fear of losing control. But fear makes you predictable. It makes you weak. And eventually it makes you irrelevant. Admiral Harrison studied the star charts with new understanding. So what's our timeline, ma'am? Conservative estimate? Within 50 years we'll have established a network of colonies and alliances that rivals the Council's territory in size and exceeds it in technological capability. Within a century we'll have unlocked whatever secrets those ancient installations are hiding. And within 2 centuries, we'll be the dominant power in the galaxy. Chen nodded. And the Council will have no one to blame but themselves. They had the chance to work with us, to benefit from human innovation and determination. Instead, they chose to see us as a threat to be eliminated. She walked toward the door, pausing at the threshold. Admiral, there's an old human saying, be careful what you wish for. The Council wished us gone. They're about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you create yourself. As Chen left, Harrison remained staring at the holographic galaxy. The red zones beyond the frontier suddenly looked less like exile and more like opportunity. And for the first time since the banishment was announced, he found himself looking forward to humanity's future among the stars. Captain Lisa Morrison watched through the view screen as the massive structure came into view. The ancient installation hung in space like a sleeping giant, its surface covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow when observed directly. After 18 months beyond the frontier boundary, this was humanity's first major discovery. "Readings, Commander Park?" she asked her science officer. "Energy signature is off the charts, Captain. Whatever's powering that thing has been running continuously for at least 20 million years. The power source appears to be some form of controlled zero-point energy extraction." Morrison felt a chill of excitement. Zero-point energy was theoretical even by human standards. The Council's most advanced civilizations hadn't come close to harnessing it. "Any response to our hails?" "Negative on traditional channels, but we are detecting some kind of scanning beam. It seems to be analyzing our ship's composition and technology level." The exploration vessel Horizon had been specifically designed for missions like this. Unlike the sleek, standardized ships favored by Council civilizations, human engineering had always prioritized adaptability and resilience. The ship bristled with sensor arrays, mining equipment, manufacturing facilities, and enough defensive systems to handle whatever the unknown regions might throw at them. "Captain," Communications Officer Reynolds spoke up. "I'm receiving a transmission." It's in English." The bridge fell silent. They were 30,000 light-years from Earth, in a region of space that hadn't been visited by any known civilization. "Put it through." The voice that emerged from the speakers was synthesized, but somehow warm. "Greetings. Travelers from the world you call Earth. We have been monitoring your species' recent exile from the Galactic Council territories. We offer our congratulations." Morrison exchanged glances with her senior officers. "This is Captain Morrison of the exploration vessel Horizon. May I ask who we're speaking with?" "You may call us the architects. We are the automated systems left behind by the civilization that built this network of installations across the galaxy. We have been waiting a very long time for a species like yours to arrive." "A species like ours? Independent, curious, unafraid of the unknown. The current galactic powers have grown stagnant in their comfort. They fear change, avoid risk, and have forgotten the drive to explore and expand that once made their ancestors great. But your species retains these qualities." Commander Park leaned forward. "What exactly is this installation?" "One of many manufacturing and research centers distributed throughout the regions your council calls the Forbidden Zones. We have been maintaining them for millennia, waiting for suitable inheritors." Morrison's pulse quickened. "Inheritors?" "The civilization that built these installations faced a choice similar to your current situation. They could remain within the bounds of established galactic order, accepting limitations on their growth and potential. Or they could push beyond those boundaries and claim their true inheritance among the stars. What happened to them? They transcended the physical limitations that bind most species to single planets or solar systems. But before their departure, they left these installations as a gift for whichever species proved worthy of inheriting their knowledge." The implications hit Morrison like a shockwave. "You're offering us access to technology that's 20 million years ahead of anything in the galaxy?" "Not offering. Bequeathing. Your species has already proven its worth by choosing exile over submission, by venturing into the unknown rather than accepting artificial limitations. The installations will respond to your needs and technological level, providing appropriate upgrades and capabilities." Park's console lit up with incoming data streams. "Captain, I'm reading massive information downloads. Manufacturing specifications, energy generation systems, faster-than-light communication networks. This is incredible. There is one condition," the architect continued. "This technology cannot be shared with the Galactic Council or any species that remains under their authority. It is meant for those who have chosen independence over security, growth over stagnation." Morrison considered the implications. What about other exiled species? Many have already been contacted and have begun integrating architect technology into their civilizations. The Kasari have established the most advanced faster-than-light communication network in galactic history. The Zephyrians have unlocked the secrets of manipulating stellar evolution. The Makari have developed nanotechnology capable of transforming entire worlds. And together you represent the next phase of galactic evolution. While the Council civilizations have spent millennia perfecting the art of standing still, the exiled species have been given the tools to leap forward by millions of years. Morrison looked around the bridge at her crew's amazed faces. What do you need from us? Use the knowledge wisely. Expand beyond the limitations that the Council tried to impose upon you. And when you are ready, help guide the galaxy toward its next evolutionary phase. The view screen shifted to show a map of the galaxy's spiral arms. Thousands of points of light marked architect installations scattered throughout the forbidden regions. Most were active and waiting. These installations will provide everything you need: manufacturing capabilities beyond your current understanding, defensive systems that can protect entire star systems, terraforming technology that can make any world habitable within decades rather than centuries. Park was frantically taking notes as data continued streaming to his console. Captain, the manufacturing specifications alone could revolutionize our entire industrial base. We could build ships that make Council dreadnoughts look like toys. But remember, the architect warned, power without wisdom leads to the same stagnation that plagues the Council. Your species' greatest strength is not your technology or your numbers. It's your willingness to adapt, to grow, to face the unknown with curiosity rather than fear. Morrison nodded slowly. We understand. What's our first step? Begin establishing colonies in the systems with architect installations. The technology will automatically integrate with your existing capabilities, upgrading and enhancing them. Within a generation, you will possess capabilities that the Council cannot match or counter. And then you wait. The Council's current order has existed for nearly 1,000,000 years. They believe it will last forever. But nothing in the universe is permanent. Change is coming, whether they accept it or not. When it arrives, the exiled species will be ready to guide the galaxy into a new age. Morrison took a deep breath. Architect, on behalf of humanity, we accept your gift. We won't waste it. We know you won't. That's why you were chosen. Begin your work, Captain Morrison. The galaxy's future depends on species like yours having the courage to claim it. The transmission ended, but the data downloads continued. Morrison watched her crew working frantically to process the incoming information, their faces lit with wonder and excitement. Helm, plot a course for the nearest system with an architect installation, she ordered, and send a priority message back to Earth. Tell them the exile just became the greatest opportunity in human history. As the horizon turned toward their new destination, Morrison couldn't help but smile. The Galactic Council had tried to bury humanity in the darkness beyond civilization. Instead, they had delivered them directly to the doorstep of powers beyond imagination. The galaxy was about to learn that banishing humans hadn't eliminated a threat. It had created an empire. 5 years had passed since first contact with the architect installations, and the transformation of human space was nothing short of revolutionary. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Director of Exiled Species Coordination, stood in the observation lounge of Babylon Station. Humanity's first major construction project using architect technology, the station itself was a marvel that defied everything the galaxy thought. It knew about engineering. Instead of the brutal industrial aesthetics favored by most civilizations, Babylon Station flowed like a work of art. Its hull incorporated living metal that could self-repair and adapt to changing needs. Energy fields provided artificial gravity, without the massive rotating sections that other species required. Most importantly, it served as the diplomatic heart of what was rapidly becoming known as the Frontier Alliance. Status report on the Zephyrian Integration Project? Elena asked her aide, Commander Sarah Kim, ahead of schedule. Their population management technology combined with our industrial base has resulted in colonies that can support 10 times the population density of anything in Council space. More importantly, the colonies are completely self-sufficient within 2 years of establishment. Elena nodded, reviewing the holographic displays showing the Alliance's expansion. What had begun as scattered groups of exiled species was rapidly becoming a coordinated civilization that spanned hundreds of star systems. The key had been recognizing that each species brought unique strengths that, when combined with architect technology, created capabilities far beyond what any single civilization could achieve. And the Kasari communication network, fully operational across all Alliance territory. We now have instantaneous communication across distances that would take Council ships months to traverse. Their long-range sensors have also identified several Council monitoring stations trying to observe our activities. Let them watch, Elena said with satisfaction. What they're seeing should be impossible by their understanding of galactic development. The door chimed and Ambassador HFY of the Makari entered. The reptilian humanoid had been one of the first exiled species to respond to humanity's overtures for cooperation. His people's mastery of nanotechnology had proven invaluable in accelerating construction projects across the Alliance. Director Vasquez, he said, his translated voice carrying undertones of excitement. The deep space reconnaissance teams have returned with remarkable news. Elena turned from the viewport. What have they found? 3 more species that were exiled by the Council in the past century. The Thylorians were banished for developing artificial intelligence that exceeded Council safety parameters. The Nexari were expelled for refusing to limit their genetic enhancement programs. And the Voltani, he paused dramatically. The Voltani were exiled for developing weapons technology that the Council deemed too dangerous. Weapons technology? According to our scouts, they've spent the last 50 years perfecting defensive systems that can neutralize any known attack methodology. Their homeworld is protected by shields that could withstand the combined assault of the entire Council fleet. Elena felt a familiar thrill of excitement. Each new species they encountered added another piece to what was becoming the most formidable alliance in galactic history. What's their response to our invitation? Enthusiastic. They've been watching our expansion and are impressed by what they call our constructive integration approach. Instead of each species trying to survive alone, we're building something greater than the sum of our parts. Commander Kim pulled up the latest territorial analysis. Ma'am, at current expansion rates, we'll control more habitable systems than the core Council worlds within 10 years. Control is the wrong word, Elena corrected. We're not conquering or subjugating. We're offering partnership. Every world that joins the Alliance does so voluntarily, and every species maintains their autonomy while contributing to our collective strength. HFY's reptilian features showed what Elena had learned to recognize as amusement. A concept that the Council finds incomprehensible. Their intelligence networks are sending increasingly frantic reports about our activities. What kind of reports? They believe we're preparing for an invasion of Council space. They cannot understand why we're building manufacturing facilities, research stations, and defensive installations instead of warships and assault fleets. Elena laughed. They're thinking like conquerors because that's how they've maintained power for millennia. They can't conceive of a civilization that grows through attraction rather than domination. The holographic display shifted to show the latest intelligence gathered by Alliance scouts. Council territory appeared as a series of connected systems with heavily fortified borders and rigid patrol routes. By contrast, Alliance space resembled a vast network of interconnected nodes, each system supporting multiple others through trade, shared resources, and technological exchange. The scouts also report increased Council military activity along the frontier boundary, Kim added. They're reinforcing border stations and increasing patrol frequency. Let them, Elena said. Every ship they assign to watching us is a ship that can't be used to enforce their authority over the species still under their control. HFY gestured to the display. There's something else, Director. Our deep space sensors have detected what appears to be civil unrest in several Council systems. Species that have been suppressed for millennia are beginning to question why they accepted limitations on their growth and development. The Council's greatest fear, Elena observed, that their member species will realize they don't need Council protection, they need protection from the Council. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Alliance's monitoring station. Captain Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, her expression grim. Director Vasquez, we've intercepted Council communications indicating they're planning some kind of preemptive action against the Alliance. They're calling it Operation Cleansing Light. Elena felt her stomach tighten. What kind of action? Unknown, but they're mobilizing significant forces. Our estimates suggest they're preparing to deploy at least 300 capital ships along the frontier boundary. 300 ships against how many systems? Over 800 Alliance worlds, ma'am. They don't have enough firepower to simultaneously attack all our territories. HFY made a sound that Elena recognized as Makari laughter. They still don't understand what they're facing. They think in terms of conquering territory and destroying fleets. But we don't have a traditional fleet structure for them to target. Exactly, Elena agreed. Every Alliance world is self-sufficient and heavily defended. Our manufacturing is distributed across hundreds of systems. Our research facilities are mobile and can be relocated within hours. We've built a civilization that can't be destroyed by conventional military action. Commander Kim was studying the tactical displays. Ma'am, I think they're planning to make an example of 1 or 2 systems, hoping to intimidate the rest of the Alliance into submission. Then they're about to learn a very painful lesson about the difference between ruling through fear and leading through inspiration, Elena said. Send a message to all Alliance species. Tell them the Council is finally showing their true nature, and activate the defense protocols we've been developing. Ma'am, it's time to demonstrate to the galaxy that the age of Council dominance is ending. They want to see what we've built in the darkness beyond their borders? Elena smiled grimly. Let's show them. As alarms began sounding throughout Babylon Station and across Alliance space, Elena looked out at the stars with a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The Council had spent 5 years wondering what the exiled species were doing in the forbidden regions. They were about to find out that banishment had not weakened humanity and its allies. It had made them unstoppable. High Counselor HFY stood before the assembled Council fleet, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of supreme authority. Behind him, 300 of the most advanced warships in known galactic history hung in perfect formation against the starfield. Each vessel represented centuries of accumulated technology and the combined manufacturing might of a dozen core world civilizations. Today we end the cancer that has been growing beyond our borders, he announced. To the fleet commanders, the exiled species have had 5 years to understand their place in the galactic order. Instead, they have chosen defiance. Admiral Vorthak of the Altarian Defense Force, his jellyfish-like form pulsing with agreement, added his voice to the broadcast. Intelligence reports indicate they have established over 800 colonies in the forbidden regions. This expansion violates every principle of controlled development that has maintained galactic stability. HFY's eyes glowed with righteous anger. They have corrupted the natural order, forming alliances that should not exist, sharing technologies without proper oversight, and worst of all, they have begun transmitting propaganda into Council space, encouraging rebellion among our member species. The target for Operation Cleansing Light was the Kepler 442 system, one of humanity's largest colonies and a major hub for alliance coordination. Intelligence suggested that destroying it would cripple the exiled species' communication networks and serve as an unmistakable warning to the rest. Remember, HFY continued, we are not merely destroying a colony. We are preserving the peace and stability that has governed the galaxy for 1,000,000 years. The exiled species chose isolation over integration. Today they learn the consequences of that choice. The fleet began its jump toward the target system, confident in their overwhelming superiority. 300 ships against a single colony world. The outcome was predetermined. They found when they arrived shattered every assumption about warfare the galaxy had developed over millennia of conflict. The Kepler 442 system did not contain a single defended world. Instead, the entire system had been transformed into an integrated defensive network that defied conventional understanding. Asteroid belts had been converted into automated manufacturing centers. The gas giant's moons housed energy generation facilities that fed power to defensive installations scattered throughout the system. Even the star itself seemed to pulse with artificial rhythms. Sensor readings, Commander, Admiral Vorthak demanded of his science officer. I'm reading energy signatures beyond our measurement scales, sir. The entire system appears to be alive somehow. The asteroids are moving in coordinated patterns. The planetary defenses are adapting their positions in real time, and there are gravitational anomalies that suggest massive manipulation of space-time itself. HFY studied the tactical displays with growing unease. This was not the desperate improvisation of refugee species. This was engineering on a scale that surpassed anything in Council space. Begin the attack. Target the primary manufacturing installations. The Council fleet opened fire with overwhelming force. Energy beams that could crack planets, missiles that could destroy moons, and particle weapons that could sterilize entire continents erupted toward their targets. Nothing happened. The weapons simply vanished as they approached the system's defensive perimeter, absorbed by energy fields that rippled with impossible geometries. The asteroid manufacturing centers continued their work undisturbed. The planetary installations showed no damage whatsoever. Impossible, breathed Admiral Vorthak. Our weapons are simply disappearing. Then the system began to respond. It started subtly. Council ships found their sensors being jammed by signals that seemed to know exactly how to disrupt their specific technological implementations. Communication networks that had operated flawlessly for centuries suddenly became unreliable. Navigation systems began reporting conflicting data. Sir, the communications officer reported with growing panic. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through. The face that appeared on the main screen was unmistakably human, but the background showed technology that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Captain Morrison smiled pleasantly as she spoke. High Counselor Zeftai, welcome to Alliance Space. I'm Captain Lisa Morrison, current administrator of the Kepler 442 system. I believe you're here to demonstrate Council authority? Zeftai's rage was magnificent to behold. You will surrender immediately and submit to Council justice for your crimes against galactic stability. Morrison's expression didn't change. I'm afraid that's not possible, High Counselor. You see, we don't recognize Council authority in this region of space. This system is under Alliance protection. You face 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Your primitive defenses cannot... With respect, Morrison interrupted gently. Your ships aren't advanced. They're old. Your weapons technology hasn't fundamentally changed in 50,000 years. You've perfected variations on the same basic principles, but you've never had to innovate because you've never faced real opposition. The tactical display around Zeftai began showing readings that made no sense. Council ships were reporting system failures that shouldn't be possible. Engines were shutting down spontaneously. Weapons arrays were going offline without explanation. Most disturbing of all, the ships themselves seemed to be fighting against their crew's commands. What are you doing to our vessels? Admiral Vorthak demanded. Morrison consulted a display that seemed to be made of crystallized light. The Makari developed nanotechnology that can integrate with any mechanical system. The Kasari perfected quantum communication that can penetrate any shielding. The Thylorians created artificial intelligence that can outthink any organic mind. And humans, she smiled. Humans figured out how to make it all work together. Across the Council fleet, chaos was spreading. Ships that had functioned perfectly for centuries were suddenly behaving like they had minds of their own. Weapons refused to fire. Engines changed course without authorization. Life support systems began cycling through optimization routines that left crews gasping. Your technology has a fundamental weakness, Morrison continued conversationally. It was designed by committee, built by the lowest bidder, and operated by crews who were never allowed to truly understand how it works. The Council's obsession with control and standardization has made your entire civilization brittle. Zeftai watched, in horror, as his magnificent fleet began to disintegrate, without a single shot being fired in anger. This is impossible. No species has technology capable of... No single species, Morrison agreed. But we're not a single species anymore. We're an alliance of civilizations that were exiled for being too innovative, too independent, too willing to explore possibilities that the Council was too afraid to investigate. Admiral Vorthak's flagship suddenly went dark, its engines dying and its weapons systems shutting down completely. Across the fleet, similar failures were cascading through ship after ship. You wanted to see what we've built in the darkness beyond your borders? Morrison asked. This is just the beginning. Every system we control is defended like this one. Every world we've colonized has capabilities that your intelligence networks can't even classify. We've had 5 years to prepare for your inevitable response, and we've used that time well. The tactical display now showed that less than a third of the Council fleet was still operational, and those remaining ships were reporting critical systems failures across all major functions. But here's what should really terrify you, Morrison continued, her pleasant expression never changing. We didn't build weapons to do this. These are our defensive systems. We've never actually shown anyone what we can do when we decide to go on the offensive. Zeftai found his voice. What do you want? Nothing from you. You've already given us everything we needed when you banished us from your territory. You freed us from your bureaucracy, your restrictions, and your oversight. You gave us access to regions of space filled with ancient technology that you were too cautious to explore. Most importantly, you surrounded us with natural allies who shared our commitment to growth over stagnation. The High Counselor stared at the display showing his disabled fleet. This cannot stand. The Galactic Order is changing whether you accept it or not. The species still under Council authority are receiving reports of this engagement right now, thanks to our communication networks. They're learning that Council military superiority is an illusion. They're discovering that there are alternatives to accepting artificial limitations on their development. Morrison stood, and the camera pulled back to show the impressive command center behind her. High Counselor, I'm going to do something unprecedented in galactic history. I'm going to let your fleet go. What? Your ship's systems will be restored to full functionality in exactly 1 hour. You can return to Council space and report what you've seen here. Tell them that the Alliance has no interest in conquering Council territory or... The news of the fleet's humiliating defeat spread through Council space like wildfire, carried by the same instantaneous communication networks that the Alliance had been secretly establishing throughout the galaxy. Within days, species that had accepted Council authority for millennia were asking uncomfortable questions about the true extent of their protector's power. On the Council homeworld of Centralis Prime, emergency sessions were being held around the clock. High Counselor HFY found himself defending decisions that had seemed obvious just weeks before, while facing challenges to his authority that would have been unthinkable in the stable order that had governed galactic civilization for nearly 1 million years. The reports must be exaggerated, insisted Counselor Vashati of the Betelgeuse Trade Federation. No collection of exiled species could have developed technology capable of neutralizing our entire fleet without destroying a single ship. The reports come from our own fleet commanders, HFY replied wearily. He had aged visibly in the days since Operation Cleansing Light. 300 ships, disabled simultaneously by methods our scientists cannot explain or counter. Then we increased the force and declared War Counselor Drachmon, his crystalline form resonating with aggressive harmonics. Deploy 1,000 ships. 2,000. Whatever these exile technologies are, they must have limits. Admiral Vorthak, who had requested permission to address the full council, stood slowly. His jellyfish-like form had lost much of its usual confident luminescence. Honored counselors, I must speak against any additional military action. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Vorthak was known as one of the council's most aggressive military commanders. Explain yourself. Admiral, HFY demanded. What we encountered in the Kepler 442 system was not military technology as we understand it. The Alliance has somehow integrated manufacturing, defense, communication, and perhaps consciousness itself into a single coordinated system. Their weapons didn't destroy our ships, they convinced our ships to stop working. Counselor Vashati leaned forward. Convinced them? Our own technology turned against us, not through sabotage or external interference, but as if the ships themselves decided to side with the Alliance. This suggests capabilities beyond anything in our theoretical frameworks. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If Alliance technology could subvert Council systems at the most fundamental levels, then no amount of additional firepower would matter. What do our intelligence networks report about Alliance activities? Asked Counselor Miranda of the Outer Rim Collective. The intelligence briefing that followed was more disturbing than the military defeat. The Alliance had not simply survived in the Forbidden Regions, they had thrived beyond anything the Council had thought possible. Hundreds of worlds were being terraformed using techniques that could transform dead planets into garden worlds within decades. Manufacturing capabilities exceeded the combined output of all Council space. Most threatening of all, the Alliance was attracting voluntary membership from species within Council territory. The Andorian Mining Consortium has formally requested Alliance membership, reported Intelligence Director Korthval. They claim that Alliance mining technology could increase their productivity by 3,000%, while reducing environmental impact to essentially zero. The Canis Major Research Collective has been secretly negotiating technology exchanges with Alliance scientists, added Security Chief Nalthar. They report that Alliance research methods have solved theoretical problems that our best minds have struggled with for centuries. HFY felt the foundations of his worldview crumbling. How many Council member species have initiated contact with the Alliance? As of yesterday, 47 civilizations have made formal inquiries about Alliance membership. Another 132 have established unofficial diplomatic channels. Most concerning of all, Several core world species are quietly investigating the possibility of withdrawing from Council authority. The chamber erupted in chaos. Core world species had been the foundation of Council power for hundreds of thousands of years. If they began questioning Council authority, the entire galactic order would collapse. "This is intolerable," roared War Counselor Drakmon. "We will not allow the dissolution of galactic civilization because of exile malcontents and their impossible technologies." "With respect," Admiral Vorthak said quietly, "what exactly do you propose we do? Our military superiority has been proven illusory. Our technological advantages have been neutralized. Our political authority is being questioned by our own member species. We negotiate," said a new voice from the chamber's entrance. The assembled council turned to see Ambassador Elena Vasquez entering the chamber, flanked by two beings they didn't immediately recognize. The human looked older than when she had left Centralis Prime 5 years earlier, but she carried herself with a confidence that seemed to fill the room. "You have no authority to appear before this council," Zeftai snarled. "Actually, I do," Elena replied calmly. "As the representative of the Frontier Alliance, I'm here to discuss terms of coexistence between our civilizations. The Alliance is not recognized as a legitimate government," insisted Counselor Vashti. "Recognition is not required for existence," said one of Elena's companions, a reptilian being whose scales seemed to shift color as he spoke. "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Makari Confederation. My people have been thriving beyond your borders for 3 centuries. The other figure, a tall humanoid with silver skin that appeared to be constructed from living metal, spoke in harmonious tones. "I am Synthesis Prime of the Thylorian Collective. Our artificial intelligence networks have been observing Council activities for 50 years. Elena stepped forward. "Honored counselors, we're not here to threaten you or demand your surrender. We're here to offer you a choice, and you offer us a choice?" Zeftai's voice dripped with outrage. "The galaxy is changing whether you accept it or not. The Alliance now controls more habitable systems than Council space. Our technology exceeds yours by orders of magnitude. Our member species are growing and thriving in ways that your restrictions never permitted. Most importantly, we're offering alternatives to civilizations that have grown tired of artificial limitations." Elena gestured, and a holographic display filled the chamber's center. It showed the galaxy divided into 3 zones: Council space, Alliance territory, and neutral regions. "Here's what we propose: formal recognition of Alliance sovereignty over the regions beyond the frontier boundary. In exchange, we guarantee that Alliance forces will not enter Council space without invitation, and will establish formal diplomatic relations between our civilizations." "And if we refuse?" asked War Counselor Drakman. Elena's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. "Then we continue expanding our influence through voluntary membership and technological superiority. Eventually, Council space becomes a small, isolated region clinging to outdated methods while the rest of the galaxy moves forward." Synthesis Prime's metallic features shifted into what might have been a smile. "Our projections indicate that Council authority will become irrelevant within 50 years, regardless of your decision today. This offer simply allows for a peaceful transition rather than a chaotic collapse." Ambassador Kethavar added, "Many of your member species are already requesting Alliance technology and political systems. We can either work together to manage this transition, or we can watch your civilization fracture as species abandon Council authority for Alliance membership." The chamber was silent for long moments as the Council absorbed the implications. They were not being offered terms of surrender. They were being offered irrelevance or cooperation. "What exactly are you proposing?" Counselor Miranda asked carefully. "Partnership," Elena said simply. "The Alliance has no interest in ruling over species that prefer Council-style governance. But we also won't allow the Council to interfere with civilizations that choose Alliance membership. We're proposing a galaxy with room for multiple approaches to civilization." She paused, looking around the chamber. "The age of single-authority galactic government is ending. The question is whether that transition happens through cooperation or conflict." High Counselor Zeftai stared at the holographic galaxy display, seeing for the first time how small Council space had become relative to the growing Alliance territories. "We need time to consider your proposal," he said finally. "Of course," Elena agreed, "but don't take too long. Every day you delay, more of your member species are deciding that the future lies with the Alliance rather than the Council." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Elena turned back one last time. High Counselor, 5 years ago you banished humanity for being too independent, too aggressive, too unwilling to accept our assigned place in your hierarchy. You thought you were removing a threat to galactic stability. She smiled. Instead, you gave us exactly what we needed to build something better than anything the galaxy has ever seen. The choice now is whether you want to be part of that future, or remain prisoners of your past. 25 years after the banishment, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The great spiral arms that had once been rigidly divided between Council territory and forbidden zones now pulsed with the activities of hundreds of civilizations, pursuing their own paths to growth and development. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now in her 70s but kept vital by Alliance medical technology, stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, humanity's diplomatic headquarters at the galaxy's edge. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, she could see the impossible sight that had become routine over the past decade. Ships from dozens of different civilizations moving freely through space that had once been considered too dangerous for exploration. "Final status report, Director?" asked Captain Morrison, now Admiral Morrison and overall commander of Alliance Defense Forces. "Better than we dared hope 25 years ago," Elena replied, consulting her personal display. "The Alliance now encompasses over 1,500 star systems and 43 distinct civilizations. More importantly, we've maintained our founding principles throughout the expansion." She gestured toward the activity beyond the viewport. "Every species maintains their cultural autonomy. Every world chooses its own government. Every civilization contributes according to their strengths and receives support according to their needs." Morrison nodded, but Elena could see the concern in her expression. "What about the Council situation?" Elena sighed. The Galactic Council had not adapted well to the new reality. Rather than embracing change, they had retreated into increasingly rigid isolation, maintaining their authority over a shrinking collection of systems while the galaxy moved forward around them. Latest reports from our diplomatic observers suggest that Council space has lost another 12 member civilizations this year. The Rigel Commonwealth formally joined the Alliance last month. The Vega Trade Federation is expected to announce their withdrawal from Council authority within the week. That leaves maybe 200 systems still under Council control? At most. And many of those are showing signs of internal instability. When your entire system of government is based on maintaining the status quo, rapid change becomes an existential threat. Morrison pulled up the current galactic political map. The sight was striking. Alliance territory had grown to encompass roughly 60% of inhabited space, while numerous independent civilizations occupied another 30%. Council space appeared as a small cluster of systems near the galactic core, surrounded by the very regions they had once controlled. Any word from High Counselor Zeftai? He was replaced 3 years ago. The new Council leadership is even less flexible than the previous administration. They've essentially declared their remaining territory a closed system, forbidden to Alliance citizens and closed to outside influence. Elena turned from the viewport and walked to her desk, where decades of reports and diplomatic correspondence told the story of the galaxy's transformation. "In a way, I feel sorry for them. They had a chance to be part of something incredible, and they chose fear over opportunity." "Ma'am, incoming priority transmission from the Architect Network." Elena and Morrison exchanged glances. Communications from the ancient artificial intelligences had become increasingly rare as the Alliance matured and required less direct guidance. "Put it through." The familiar synthesized voice filled the observation deck. "Director Vasquez, Admiral Morrison, congratulations on the success of the Alliance experiment." "Thank you, Architect. What can we do for you?" "Actually, it is what we can do for you. The Alliance has proven itself capable of responsible galactic stewardship. The time has come for the next phase of your development." Elena felt a familiar chill of excitement. "What kind of development?" "For 25 million years, our installations have been maintaining themselves while waiting for a suitable inheritor civilization. You have exceeded our expectations in every measure. The Alliance represents something that has never existed in this galaxy. A truly cooperative interspecies civilization committed to growth, exploration, and mutual support." Morrison leaned forward. What are you proposing? Full access to our central archives and manufacturing capabilities. Technology that will allow you to undertake projects on a galactic scale. Most importantly, the knowledge needed to establish contact with other galaxies and the civilizations they contain. Elena's breath caught. Other galaxies? The Milky Way is not unique, Director. The universe contains billions of galaxies, many of them populated by civilizations facing the same choices your species confronted: stagnation or growth, fear or courage, isolation or cooperation. The implications were staggering. Elena thought about the long journey from humanity's banishment to their current position as leaders of a galactic alliance, and realized it had all been preparation for something even greater. There is one final matter to address, the architect continued. The remaining council systems. Morrison's expression hardened. Are they becoming a threat? Not militarily, but their isolation is becoming a source of instability. Several member species are reporting increasing authoritarian measures and restrictions on communication with the outside galaxy. Intelligence suggests that the current council leadership is planning some form of extreme action to restore their former influence. Elena nodded grimly. We've been monitoring the situation. They seem to believe that if they can create a large enough crisis, the galaxy will turn to them for stability and order. Our analysis suggests they are correct about the crisis but wrong about the response. Any destabilizing action they take will likely result in the complete collapse of their remaining authority. What do you recommend? Offer them one final opportunity for peaceful integration into the galactic community. Make it clear that isolation is no longer a viable option, but that cooperation remains available. Elena considered the proposal. After 25 years of building something unprecedented in galactic history, the thought of the Council's remaining systems collapsing into chaos was genuinely troubling. Admiral Morrison, prepare a diplomatic mission to Council space. Full honors, maximum visibility. I want every remaining Council civilization to see that we're offering partnership, not conquest. And if they refuse? Elena looked out at the IOER stars, thinking about the long path that had brought them to this point. Then we do what we've always done. We protect those who want to grow, we welcome those who seek cooperation, and we demonstrate that there are better ways to live than in fear of change. She turned back to Morrison. But make sure they understand that this is their last chance. The galaxy is moving forward with or without them. The only question is whether they want to be part of the future or prisoners of the past. As Morrison left to prepare the diplomatic mission, Elena remained at the viewport, watching the ships of dozens of civilizations moving through space that had once been forbidden to exploration. In the distance, she could see the massive construction projects that were reshaping entire star systems, the research stations where Alliance scientists were unlocking the secrets of the universe, and the colony ships carrying hope to new worlds. The Galactic Council had banished humanity for being too independent, too aggressive, too unwilling to accept limitations. They had intended to remove a threat to their established order. Instead, they had created the catalyst for the greatest expansion of cooperation, knowledge, and possibility in galactic history. Elena smiled as she thought about the message they would be carrying to the Council's remaining systems. After 25 years in exile, humanity and their allies were returning not as conquerors, but as proof that there were no limits to what civilizations could achieve when they chose courage over comfort, growth over stagnation, and cooperation over control. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of the Alliance and whatever lay beyond the stars was just beginning.